Therapy, I mean, welcome to the show. I hope you're well. Big up to every one of you. What has been, yeah, big up to every one of you, man. I hope you're here for some therapy because honestly, that was a joke. Jarvis, let me know if you want to jump on. Jarvis, let me know if you want to jump on, brother. Send you the link. But yeah, what a performance by the players, by the team. What a disgraceful, disappointing, disheartened performance. And we warned it. We talked about it on here yesterday. People like me and you and a lot of you in the chat, we don't have a what do you call it? Kind of we don't see into the future. We don't have this. We don't have this magic mirror into the future. But what do is that we see what we watch. We know our eyes don't lie to us. And since we beat Barcelona, and since we beat we beat Barcelona in that abysmal we beat Barcelona in that BS Europa League, and since we beat Newcastle in that Carabao Cup, I think the players thought the season's done. I'm not going to lie to you. We've played 3 Premier League games since then, and we've not scored even a goal. We didn't even look like we were ever scoring a goal. So what does that say to you? Well, welcome to the show, Mundo. Big up to everybody who's here, but it's an absolute joke. Jarvis, let me know if you want to jump on. I'll send you the link. Mundo, I'll let you go first, bro, because I've been warning about this. So this is not new to me. I've been constantly talking about it, saying that these players, they're still bottle job. They're still cowardly FC there. And especially the way that Ten Hag wants to play, there is, if this team doesn't play with intensity or aggression, we get slaughtered. And if Newcastle players had their shooting boots on today, it could have been 5, 6. You could have chose whatever the score would have been. So people like me are vindicated. And I hate the fact that I'm vindicated. I hate that. Because on this channel alone, I've done 6 or 7 videos where I talked about this. I talked about this. I said the squad, the depth, the quality is not there. It's not there. So you can't go on all fronts when you're on bare minimum. And they're just showing them. And you know what? Don't give me any excuse today. I'm not hearing it. No Eriksen, no Casemiro. Don't give me any of that. Do not give me any of that. This is Manchester United Football Club. Don't give me any of those excuses. These players got a draw out of Barcelona in a Mickey Mouse trophy, beat Barcelona in a Mickey Mouse trophy, won a Mickey Mouse trophy, and I thought the season is a wrap. That's where we're at, Mundo. But that's what I see, people. And Ten Hag today, absolutely abysmal tactics. Abysmal tactics from Ten Hag today. So we already know the players are cowardly. We already know that they don't have any brain between their ears. We already know this. I saw it last season. I saw it on the Ollie. I saw the Jackal and Hard on the Ollie. I don't need to see it anywhere else. But today, that's done by Eddie Howe. When he wins the game, when he does good, we're all on here. We're all on here telling it as it is. We're saying what a wonderful tactics by Ten Hag. What a wonderful play. And I'm sorry, I'm not Ten Hag out, but I'm calling it out. He's not the Lord and Savior. He's just a human being like everybody of us. He's fallible like every other human being. And today, he got it totally wrong. And I always say, we said it last night with Boumbaye, United go there without realizing where we are in the league, realizing what type of game this is. Without us realizing that, we're going to get slaughtered. And it was a slaughter. From minute 1 till the last minute, they were better than us. Even when they scored, they went up levels. They didn't sit back and defend. They went up levels again and got the second goal. His tactics, abysmal. I already know about these players. I know. Still, there are too many in this team who were here a long time ago. Who was here today? Martinez's new signing. Anthony, I thought he was our best player today. I thought taking him up was absolutely shocking. Rashford should have come off because he did F all. And we applauded Rashford, but today he was shite. He was absolutely, instead of moaning to the referee, he's got a disease Bruno's got. He thinks he's Bruno, moaning at the referee. Get on with it. You got fouled. Get on with it. Stop throwing your boots. Literally, that to me was a metaphor of Rashford throwing his dummy out of the flipping pram. That's what that was. Get on with the game. Get on with it. Demand the ball in dangerous areas. At the end of the day, it was what it was, people. And I say it again. Abysmal. I expected from this team, out of all the signings of Erik ten Hag who played today, Anthony, Martinez, obviously Verkos, come on guys. This guy is a guy that's played 20-something games in a row, played majority of those games. He's shattered and he's not at a quality. Who else that he signed? Sabitzer, that's a loanee signing. They're loanee, they're not proper signings. They're on loan signings. But Erik ten Hag's proper signings, only 2 of them were on the pitch today. And it shows because rest of the players, we already know. Bombaye knows. Mundo, you know. Every Man United fan has been there more than Ten Hag. We've been following this club more than Ten Hag. We already know what the DNA of Man United last 10 years has been. Has been abysmal, shite football. That's what we've been. But Mundo, I'll let you come in and then Bombaye can come in. Let me just get these super chats quickly because people are like, big up to the people, man. Steve says, tune. Yeah, Steve, listen, I'll send you the link. Come jump on if you want to jump on. And let me just get this from my brother, HK Music. Big up. Keep telling United fans about Bruno and Shaw. Fan favourites at their level and we need better. No, we need better than everybody on that football pitch today. If it's up to me, every one of those players will be on the transfer list. That's me. That's me. Because I've seen it for far too long. And before any of you get giddy and go, oh, look at Mr. Negative. Oh, he's overreacting. He's overreacting. And the data is fucking in. The data is in. Manchester United's away record is fucking abysmal. In the top 9 teams in the league, 27 or 29 goals conceded. And we still got to go to Brighton. We still got to go to Spurs. Shambles. Open your eyes. I've been warning about a collapse like this for the past 2 months. I've been talking about this. And you're all calling me negative this. Mundo, I'll let you come in. Bombaye, then Tom. Big up, Tom.
Right, I'm going to say this point, right? There's a couple of points I'm going to make. I'm going to say this point, and I've made this point time and time again. Just backing up what you were saying, structure. Until we've got at least 7 or 8 of Ten Hag's players in that starting 11, we're going to see this level of performance. And I'm not buying that players are tired. I'm not accepting that. Because if you talk about fatigue and these types of things, I can accept that if the players try to run. But if they're not even trying to run, if they're not even putting in any effort, if they're not, I didn't see a single player leave that pitch blown out of their ass or with any sweat on their face or anything. There was zero application. The other thing is Ten Hag's tactics today, he's got to take the blame because how can you, after watching that first 45 minutes, keep those same players on the pitch? I don't get it. And if Martial is fit enough to be on the bench, he's fit enough to start the game. Because Weghorst, unfortunately, is offering us nothing. We're starting the game with 10 men. We're starting the game disadvantaged with 10 men because we've got a guy up front who in certain games is effective, but in the big games, in the games that matter, in the games where you need somebody who's got a better presence up front, the guys like Casper, he just vanishes in thin air. It's like when water reaches 100 degrees, evaporates this guy. He's not there. When the heat is turned up, he evaporates, he disappears. So we've got 10 guys on the pitch, not good enough. And what we saw today is what we've seen at Brentford, at Aston Villa, at Fulham, but for the intervention of a 18-year-old kid, that game would have ended differently. what we saw against Man City, what we saw against Liverpool. It is a pattern, and it's repeated time and time and time again. And now, as Man United fans, we have to accept we've got a problem, right? We've got a problem when it goes to playing away against any team of any quality. And as soon as, if they put it on us within the first few minutes, it's just like when we were watching Ollie's team. When you used to watch Ollie's team and you used to think it's going to be one of those games. You can tell within the first minute or two, it's going to be one of those games. And I thought we moved past that with Ten Hag. But no, old habits die hard, guys. And this is the reality. This is where we're at the moment as Manchester United. We're nowhere near where we need to be. I agree with you, Structure, about those 11. I think other than Martinez and Varane are the only two who played today that could leave St. James's Park with any credit, right? Because but for those two, we could have been on the end of another Liverpool result. Honestly, the amount of interventions they made, they kept their heads calm, but the rest of the team, oh my goodness me. Honestly, that was just, and the worrying thing is, we still got to go to Brighton. I should not be talking about the Brighton. This is Brighton. We're Manchester United. We should not be fearful of these teams. I should not be talking in this manner about Brighton and Hove Albion. I should be holding my head up saying we're going there, we're going to win. And early parts of the season, prior to the cup final, actually, that was my attitude for most games. We're going to go into that game. I expect my team to win. Now I'm feeling like I was feeling before Ten Hag, where I'm apprehensive about every single game. Don't know what we're going to get. It's Jekyll and Hyde, which Manchester United is going to turn up today. And then people want to turn and point to the fact that there's no Eriksen and no Casemiro. So wait a second. Are we that brittle that if you miss two players, the whole thing comes down like a pack of cards? That for me is not sustainable. That for me is, unfortunately, a legacy issue because we've got players that have been there for best part of 7, 8, 9 years. Leopards never change its spots. So until this manager gets at least another 4 or 5 first teamers that he's picked that meet his criteria, mentality, profile in that team, this is what we've got to expect. And I'm sorry, the way I view my team now is I want my team to be going toe-to-toe with the likes of Liverpool, not this Liverpool, but Liverpool are not dead yet. Arsenal, because they've emerged, Man City. That's what I'm looking at. And no disrespect to Newcastle, but Newcastle, who, let's be honest, look at the midfield today. They had Willock. All right, Bruno's a baller, but Willock and Longstaff running rings around us. Come on, let's be serious now, guys.
Longstaff is the embarrassing one. Willock is improving.
Yeah.
But yeah, I know what you mean.
We're complaining about McTominay. Is it like Longstaff is not?
He still?
He's their version of McTominay, but he can still put in a performance.
Why is he still there?
Anyway,
Why is he still there?
Long enough about it. I could go on all day about how horrendous we were today.
Because we don't get rid of academy players, Steve. That's why.
Yeah.
We're not like Chelsea. We don't sell our youth stars in case they turn out to be golden boys. That's the problem. And that's the legacy of our football club. But anyway, I don't know if Nuruddin's there. Are you there, Nuruddin? Right, if not, then we'll go to Bumbayai because that's the order that he said. So, Bumbayai, if you're there, boy, go.
Yes, gents, good evening. I'm going to echo. I don't think there's any. Chris said it right. It seems that we've got a problem. I've gone back into my old. I can't be asked watching anymore. It's a bit boring. I think there's multiple factors, but the scary thing here is, like Mundo is saying, I find myself going back into. I'm jittery now. I'm not sure what we're going to get, but what I was getting before is excitement. I saw one of the key things that I want from any manager that comes in is to show me that the football is improving, the mentality is changing. If that was really constant and we can constantly see the progress that we have seen until recently, that alone might have been enough to say, you know what, we stick with this guy. It's okay. Even if we got nothing this season. Now, so far, the season has been good, but I'm starting to wonder, where is this next killer performance that I've seen? Where is the performance against Liverpool, against Arsenal, against Tottenham, against Chelsea? What's happened to these performances? And I have been slowly it's been simmering there. I'm thinking it's going to come. We're going to get back on track. But to be honest with you, I'm pretty bored recently. I'm finding it quite boring, a bit laborious watching United again. And now after today's result, you're starting to go in thinking, well, I wonder what we're going to get today. There's words like fatigue. I won't discount fatigue. But I don't know this manager very well. What tends to happen when things are going badly, you start to search for answers why they're going badly. And we've been doing that for 10 years. We thought, and we couldn't figure it out. We've got the Glazers, it's the manager, it's the players, it's the system. I don't want to go back into that, because that's just taking stabs in the dark. It's no fun, and it becomes horrendous. I think, man, this is a weeding out season as well. He's going to see who I can rely on, who I can't rely on. But I also believe, as I was telling my boys before this podcast, Ten Hag has shown me that he's a good manager and he's a strong personality. I like him. There's no knee-jerk here or anything like that, but I do think part of the remit of a manager is to change the mentality. Conte is a good example. Again, I mentioned this offline to Mundo and some of the lads. I look at Conte, I think, hang on a minute, you're implicit in this cock-up because you've not been able to get them over the line. I think the boys here, if Eric Ten Hag plays the best football, but he doesn't have the mentality changed, and he can't change the mentality, then the only thing to do is you continue to believe in this manager and you have to get new players. How that's going to go, I don't know. But any good manager, Ferguson, for example, is a good manager because you didn't always have the best players, but they just didn't believe that they were beaten. They didn't know when they were beaten, and that comes from him. So I think that all went over the last 10 years, and we need a manager to bring that arrogance back, that swagger back. And I don't know if I'm seeing it anymore. It's okay not getting a performance when you get a result. Okay, fine, we can continue to chuckle and we move forward. But when you don't get a result and you get no performance, you have to ask, what am I getting here? What am I here for? What am I tuning in for? So at this point, Eric Ten Hag has to drill it into the heads of these players and say, look, guys, 9 games to go, top 4 on the line. All the good work we've done is in danger of dissipating in 2 weeks' time. That's all it'll take. So we need to come together and get back to what we were doing. Everybody's ship has to be sailing in the same direction. This is key. But right now, Manchester United have gone off track. When are they going to come back on track? I'm not sure. Today's game, we went all into it. Most of us, a draw would be a good result because we've not been playing well. We're not quite. Various factors. Newcastle, St. James's Park, it's going to be a difficult day. So it's not shocking that, we lost, but I think the performance was really bad. And this is just an extension of what we've been seeing for a period of time, and now it has become a concern. Now it's time to start looking and thinking, right, what's the reason? When are we going to get back to the good times during this season? And that is the question. And the other question is, why have we completely, gone back to this shit that we thought we'd left behind? And this is where we are with it, really.
Big up, Bombay, big up. Listen, we'll read out HKN's super chats anyway. Oh, you're back, Nuruddin. Go on, you take over, Nuruddin.
Big up, Tom. It says, HK Music, thanks for the super chat, bro. It says, the best thing Ten Hag can do this summer is to get at least 6-7 players. Forget about going for 70 million, 80 million players. We need bodies, that guys that are not good enough, no 100%. Let me just get this other super chat as well. Big up to every one of you. Please smash a like on the video. Subscribe to the channel if you're not subscribed. We're 100 away from 7,000. So if you subscribe, maybe you can get us there. Big up to everybody, by the way, watching. Our youth players never turn out. It's dumb. We don't sell them. To me, what I've seen in the paper, it's just propaganda and media because Man United have always sold young players. If you look at during Fergie's time, majority of the young players that ever play for reserves go on then to go and have a brilliant professional careers within either in the Championship or League One or in the Premier League. That's what they've always done. So this idea that Man United don't sell youth players and Man United don't, it's hard for them to get rid of players. It's shocking. But Tom, I'm going to stay with you. And we're going to go to you last, Steve, because obviously you're partying. We can already see the disco lights. You know what I mean? We can already see the disco lights. But we'll come to you last. Tom, how did you see that game? How did you see that game and what do you take from it? And for all the people that calling me negative, last night we talked about it. I said on here last night, it could be 5 or 4 because my eyes don't lie to me. My eyes, I don't know what some of the United fans watch. My eyes don't lie to me.
I was about to say the three goals thing. I was like,
yeah, my eyes don't lie to me in terms of the way we play, right? I see what I see, and we can see what we can see. At the end of the day, it is what it is. But Tom, what do you see that game? Big up HK Music for the super chat as well, and good to chat to you in the chat earlier.
I mean, look, if we look at the bigger picture, Ten Hag came in this season and he's had to change the way that he believes football should be played just to suit these players in this squad. And ultimately, you look at what he has in terms of his options. Either he has players that are risks in terms of they might not be fit before the game. We heard about Varane, Shaw, all these players, Sabitzer. Like, there isn't any quality that you can utilise on the bench. And I'll be real and honest with you. I do have some sympathy for Ten Hag in terms of the facts of that he doesn't have any players to really utilise in terms of an impact in the game because he is missing quite a few of them. Garnacho to come on off of the bench, for example, in this sort of game would have been primed and perfect. Eriksen, Van der Beek, these kind of players you could utilise in these sort of games, but
Tom,
ultimately we take the game. What? Go on,
Tom. Erik ten Hag has got it within him to be able to, from the players that he's got, to go on at least get a point at Newcastle.
Of course. Listen, Rudin. I'm giving the bigger context picture there. I'm giving the bigger context picture. In terms of the overall game itself, the actual selection of the team, I'll be honest with you, I don't really think what he could have done much more else. Maybe Fred or whatever. If Wan-Bissaka was probably not ill, he would have played. But ultimately, he stuck McTominay and Weghorst as basically two forward players. Neither of them who can get out of a block of cement. Like, I don't understand what the thought process was behind that, really, to be honest. Because ultimately, you've already cultivated yourself in terms of Bruno and Sabitzer playing as 6, and they're your two creative players. McTominay doesn't have any of that creative spark in him at all. He doesn't. All he is a body and he's a physical player. That is it. He doesn't have anything else. Doesn't have any technical ability, nothing. That's the only difference. And the only difference between him and Fred is one's a midget and one of them's Andre the Giant. That's the only difference in the two of them. We don't look at the basis of it. And you look at such as players like for Newcastle, for example, Longstaff, Joe Linton. These players you would have thought would have been dead and buried under Steve Bruce. Eddie Howe's found something that he can get within those players because why? There's something that you can get out of those kind of players. There is a quality player behind that. McTominay, mate, you found your level today, and that is probably at Newcastle level. And that's no disrespect to where Newcastle are at this moment in time. But ultimately,
not after today.
No, not after today, no. But ultimately, the projection that Newcastle were going on when they were recruiting players at the time, in the start of the new ownership, these are the sort of players that Newcastle should be hiring in McTominay at the start of it. But ultimately, Scott McTominay, mate, he's nowhere near Man United quality. Nowhere near. And overall, I look at the whole performance and I think it's Rashford or bust. in terms of how our season works, because Anthony doesn't look like he's going to score unless it's a, worldie from, outside the box into the top corner with his left foot. Verkhorst never scores. Let's be real. I think we have to be serious in saying that. He never scores. Midfield, we don't have the players that are capable of scoring at all, really, recently, apart from maybe Bruno on the odd occasion. So really, all you've got is Rashford and set pieces. And we haven't got the tallest squad in the world anyway, so we don't score from set pieces very often. And ultimately, that just sums it up, where we have got no artillery to fire at any team at this moment in time other than Marcus Rashford. And when Rashford's not on song, like he wasn't really in the game today. We have to be really honest in saying that. But what can you really do in the game? Nothing. We didn't do anything. The first half we should have been 3-4-0 down. Let's not cut it hazy. But even in the second half, you get to half time in the same mold as we did with Liverpool, and the second half we still capitulate. Like, the sting was out of the game. It was there where you could have got something. You could have put the ball, through in behind the back line, because Newcastle, they know that they need the win. They need the points more than us at this moment in time, because they were chasing us before the end of today. And ultimately, now what? We're on a level playing field. The only difference is Newcastle has more goals than us. And ultimately, in terms of sharpening the tools, Man United were toothless today. We didn't have anything that we could have gone forward for other than Marcus Rashford. And that sums it up, really.
And anything that you did offer are quality recruitment in Botman and Cher. And even Dan Burn. Dan Burn did get twisted a few times by Anthony. But at the same time, it was a bend, don't break philosophy with Dan Burn on that side. Dan Burn did a job today relatively well. And ultimately, whenever you guys did have that, our defense stepped up at the right time. Nick Pope didn't have a single difficult save to make. Not one. And in nearly every single game this year, there's been at least one or two times where he's faced something of significance, where he has to dive, or he has to get a strong hand on it, or he has to palm it away, or has to really claim a cross. You didn't test him. You didn't test him at all. You really didn't. And my overwhelming point is, you know what the worst mistake Eric Ten Hag did today was? You just killed any pound, any value that you could have sold McTominay to us possibly for. That's gone out the window. And his stock was high after scoring 4 goals in international football, which is not at a high standard. You basically had an asset that you could get a few million for. And then now after, in front of our owners, in front of Eddie Howe, there's no way in hell we're getting him. And with all due disrespect, he is not at the level of Newcastle now, because we're a top 4 side at this moment in time. He's not at our level. He's not at your level. Absolutely not. He's not at our level now, because we're off to bigger and better things than McTominay.
There's 9 games to go yet, so you might want to chill. We have to see where everybody is in 9 weeks.
I understand, but I'm just saying, he's all right. He's not a top 7 player. He's not a top 7 player.
He's not.
Why would it?
Listen, Steve. Forget McTominay. We know what he is. How did you play? How are you feeling quickly? And then we'll go to Jarvis, and then I'll come back to you. But talk to me. This is your time to gloat. I predicted it.
To be a bit braggadocious, yeah. No, okay.
Listen, we predicted it last night, and you and your friend who's a Newcastle fan were like, whoa. But we know our team. We know what we see. Our eyes don't lie to us. But go ahead. Get your bragging rights in.
I could be a bit braggadocious. All right. Well, no, I ultimately I just thought it was down to desire. And I thought the shocking thing was the fact that when we scored, we got even better and you got even worse. It's actually not even that shocking, because that's kind of something I've seen with Newcastle. When we score, we actually are. You guys were the ones time wasting, and you were down 1-0. Make that make sense. When we had it in your half, and then Ten Hag after the game, bro. It was crazy. It was crazy. But no, I thought our boys were excellent today. I really did. I mean, my God, Isak, what a player. Bruno Guimaraes, Willock was really, really good. Sunglasses man. These comments are killing me, by the way. Shout out y'all in the comments. But no, like in all seriousness, I thought you probably had a 5-minute spell where I was like, ooh, maybe they might score here. Maybe you had a triangle thing. The worst thing that I'm gonna continue the McTominay slander because I just have to. I'm sorry. There was I think it was in the first half. He could have played in Rashford off the left, and his pass was so sideways, and it killed all of that momentum in that attack like that. And that was the one chance, and then it gave our defense all the time in the world to get back and reorganize. And he just does that kind of stuff. He did a karate chop kick. He stomped on the ball, and it was a turnover. It was just like we were just running circles around him, in and around your box. So. Yeah, we were really good in St. James's Park is a fortress. So
you deserved it. No, you deserved it. I thought from minute one, you set your stall out from the minute last.
Yeah,
you were fantastic. The crowd, we were so lucky to go in at 0-0 at half time, and Eric Ten Hag sat there and didn't change it. And I'm sorry to say, Tom, but that is disgraceful. That is disgraceful. If we didn't get 7 and 6 at Man City and 4 at Brentford, I would maybe go, ooh, that's a bit too far. But I already know these things. And the only reason that didn't happen today is because Newcastle didn't have their shooting boots. And they made a couple of decent saves. But Jarvis, I'll go to you for the cooler head. I don't know if you got cooler head than me tonight. I don't know any United fans got cooler head than me. But I'm sorry. I've been warning about this. We've done 8-9 shows on this channel talking about that it could all go tits up because the lack and depth and quality is done. And I personally believe drawing Barcelona away, beating Barcelona at home, and in the Mickey Mouse Trophy, and then winning the Mickey Mouse Trophy at Wembley, these players thought the season's done. That's where we're up to. Because since then, 3 away league games, 0 goals, 0 proper chances created, right? And 0 points. And in the league in away games, I think against the top 9, we've conceded 27 or 29 goals. Jarvis, take it away.
Yeah.
Let me know what you think about your game today.
Good evening, guys. What's up, Steve? Nice to have you on board. Haven't met you before, so nice to say hello.
Absolutely, yeah. Thanks, man. Keep up these comments, man. Keep up. They make me laugh. I love it.
Yeah.
This is the therapy show. We have to laugh, Steve. We have to laugh.
Yes, and I could take the abuse. I could take not even abuse. That's so dramatic.
That's a bit of banter. Go ahead, Jarvis.
Yeah. My take on the game today. In the beginning, I think we started okay. Newcastle were definitely up for it and starting pressing high. They were standing high with both Isak and both wingers. So and they locked off the United way to play. The biggest problem was we don't have the quality playing the short game from the back. With De Gea, he looks like shaky when he tries to pass the ball to Varane or Martinez. So I don't know what Ten Hag is thinking with a goalkeeper like him playing a style like that. We're like up for it. We're not up for it. So Newcastle we give Newcastle everything. They just stand high, press hard. So we make it very easy for them.
By playing McTominay, because then we can press, force him into silly mistakes. Yeah.
And
I said it on the show last night. That's the other thing. It was sorry, I'm cutting you off. Just real quick. Nuruddin said, we saw this coming.
Yeah, we definitely did. So, and the other thing is, the fullbacks today, like Shaw and Dalot, they got a lot of stick because Saint-Maximin was like really doing his thing. He was like terrorizing Dalot a lot of the game, and the same with Trippier on the other side. So, but I don't want to be too harsh on the fullbacks because of Casemiro was missing. And one vital thing in the formation and the style we play is that the DM, the defensive midfielder, is the one who shields the fullbacks. It's not the wingers. It's not Rashford's job to shield, for example, Dalot. No, on the other side to shield Shaw. It's the defensive midfielder, and we didn't have a defensive midfielder who could shield them. So as fast as you have Casemiro on the pitch, the fullbacks play good, and when he's missing, the fullbacks go back to being the standard of last season. So we can't be too critical of the fullback, in my opinion. The other thing, in the first half, I think Varane was really good, like playing up from the back. He had a couple of good passes, and he took the ball with him and progressed. So I think that's an underrated part of his game. We always talk about like Martinez doing that, but Varane did okay. His second half wasn't good, but his first half was okay. The midfield, I don't know what to say about the midfield because where
was it?
Yeah, it was nothing. Sabitzer, I don't know. He can't. He don't do the defensive way of Casemiro. He can't tackle. He can't cover space. He can't. Well, there's a lot of things he can't do on the defensive thing. So for me, he lacked a lot. And when we put him in the 10, it was a little bit better, but he couldn't get involved in the play. And same with Bruno. I think we give Bruno a little bit too much stick because he tried. He did his best. He went deep. He didn't do all the Hollywood passes. Okay, he had 57% pass accuracy. That's not good. But he didn't waste the ball too much. I was worried he was going to waste the ball much more than he did. So playing out of position, he did fairly okay. And Anthony, of course, I think he was lively. He tried. He had some flicks and tricks and made some free kicks and gave us some breathing room of Newcastle's pressing. On the other side, we had Rashford. He was totally anonymous. I haven't seen that guy play so bad in at least 1 year. So Ten Hag should definitely have taken him off before Anthony. And you have McTominay and Weghorst, both of them. I don't know what to say about those two guys together. They were like too animated. They couldn't do anything. They were like straight on the line. They couldn't move. And the Newcastle defenders, they had a field day. They were just like Botman and Schär and pressing Weghorst. He had nothing. Ten Hag tried to fix it. He put in Sancho, but oh boy, that man, he really
he doesn't track back. He doesn't track back.
Yeah, but to be honest, I don't want to be too harsh on Sancho because of his problems this year. But in my opinion, he's a coward. To be fair, because he's so technical, gifted on the ball, and when he tries to dribble, he dribbles like a indoor football player, like a futsal player. He doesn't use his body. He never puts his body on the line to get a free kick. He just jumps away when the tackle comes, and it ends up losing the ball. So it's very frustrating watching a guy like that. So,
Albus,
yeah.
I don't know to use the word coward, but 100% I agree with you. 100%. He does not know. He's one of our most technical footballers. He came on today. We're away. He's one of the most technically gifted footballers. Man United spent over 70 million on him. And today, when he came on, absolute abysmal. We've not bought you to look good and fancy when you got 75,000 supporting you at Old Trafford. At hostile St. James's Park, Anfield, at Arsenal, at Chelsea, I expect you to be technically gifted and say, give me that ball, and then buy fouls. Make sure you look these people look silly. But what does he do? He jumps out of the way, loses the ball, can't pass 2 yards. And I'm like, what the hell are you doing? And this is a guy who's had all the grace this season. We've all been like, okay, we got to support him. Manager's done a good job on him, letting him go away, letting him go to Holland, letting him sort his life out in terms of the mental and the physical. And then to come back and do that in a game where 1-0 down, and you're jumping out of the way. I thought today Ten Hag got every decision wrong. And I'm sorry, guys. The Ten Hag, the guy that you think is your Lord and Savior, he's not. He's just a manager. He got it totally wrong today. The fact that he took Anthony off for Sancho, are you kidding me? I'm sorry, we agree, Steve-O. We agree. Dan Burns was shaky, mate. Shaky every time. That was our outlet in the whole game. For that 60-something minutes, our whole outlet was to get the ball to Anthony.
Yeah. And
that's the only bit of joy we were getting. So to take him off for Sancho, Rashford, abysmal. We praise him. He's had an incredible season. But I'm sorry. You've got to call it out. Because when they're amazing, we come in here, we lord over them. You've got to call it out. This ain't personal. I don't know these people.
Mm-hmm.
It's what I see on the football. And my eyes don't lie to me. 2 Mickey Mouse trophies, 1 Mickey Mouse a game against Barcelona, and another Mickey Mouse trophy. And the players and Ten Hag, and I don't know what it was. Roy Keane said it. Roy Keane said there was too many celebration after that cup win. This is a Mickey Mouse effing trophy. And we're celebrating it like it's a World Cup. Do you not know when teams play against us, they don't play against you individual players. They play against the badge, the history, the heritage.
The colors.
That's who they play against. And they all come show their best form in front of the world-watching audience. They always come. Eric Ten Hag does not understand these things. I said it when we played against Liverpool. Know who the fuck you're managing. Understand where you are. This ain't area fucking divisor. It's not area divisor. Well, Ajax are the best team. And they're going to win most of the games.
Aaron.
Do you think Eric Ten Hag is making a mistake by trying to persist with a type of football, knowing that he doesn't have the personnel to do it? Or do you think he's persisting with a type of football, this playing out from the back, attempts of it, into the midfield that struggles to progress the ball, believing that he can make them into that?
No,
I think there is a...
He can. You can't. You can't. Yeah. Like I said, we know about these players. We know. Today, who played out of Eric Ten Hag side? Don't tell me about the 2 loanees, right? 2 loanees. Don't tell me about them. Other players that he signed today was Martinez and Anthony was on the football pitch. That's it.
Bro, look, I'm asking that question.
All the players that he signed, right? So, what it says to me, you know what they say in it? Einstein once said, the sign of insanity is doing the same BS thing away from home, right? Doing the same thing and expecting a different result. At the end
he
of the
said
day,
away from whom?
Mumbai, you've asked me a question. Let me answer the question. I say it and I say it clearly. I say it clearly. Eric Ten Hag today was as bad as the players on that football pitch. And I can't individualize any performance. I can't individualize anything of it. I said it on here last night. To play Eric Ten Hag modern way of football, 2 things you need to have. You need to have aggression and intensity. And the third thing is, in the Premier League, you got to fight for every effing second ball. You have to fight. Those 3 things, not there. Not there. And we know these players are cowards. That's not me saying it. The stats are on my side. All you little, you're so negative. You don't know what the hell you're talking about. Because I am being proven. And it hurts me to I'm proven right. It hurts me. But we saw it. Embarrassing.
Let me come in on this.
Embarrassing.
Right? Let me come in on this. Right. The problem we've got with this club at the moment and this group of players is we've got the same cluster of players, the nucleus, the same players we've had for the last 7 or 8 years, right? That's number one. Number two, and I'm going to put Rashford in this conversation. I'm going to put Martial in this conversation. I'm going to put Luke Shaw in this conversation. I will challenge
You better put
any
Martial in this conversation.
I will challenge any Man United fan who's in the chat or watching this. Name me one season when those players, any one of them, have had a full season where they've been consistent over the entire season. Now,
there was, bro. The one where Greenwood, Martial, and Rashford tore shit up for the season. The one where I think we came third or second. They were good that year, man.
They were good. Yeah, they were good that season. They were good that season. So that's one season out of 8, right? One season out of 8. And what did we win that season? Does it remind me? Exactly.
Second place.
Nothing, right? So when you've got players that are that inconsistent over that period of time, why does any Manchester United fan think that we're going to go? Because the bar is Manchester City, whether you like it or not, as Man United fans, the team that we're going to be competing against, if we want to compete domestically for the foreseeable future, yeah, Arsenal are up there now, but the barometer is always going to be Manchester City, right? And look at what Arsenal have had to do this season. I think they've only drawn 3 games and lost 3 games, and they've won every other game. Look at what Liverpool had to do to finish. They had to break the 90-point barrier. They almost got to 100 points 2 seasons and didn't win the league. Right? That is the level of consistency you need from your players. And we've got too many players who, as soon as March arrives and the clocks go forward, right? It's like our team forget to run, forget to press, can't play football anymore. I don't know what happens, but the season doesn't end in March. It ends in May. And for the second season in a row, when we've got to this stage of the season, things start to nosedive, right? And the basics that you expect from your team, if you can't get that right, how on earth are we ever going to match and compete with Man City? And the other team to make comparisons, because I'm hearing things about players being tired, players being injured, so on and so forth. When Liverpool, look at Arsenal, Saka plays every game. You don't think that he's had injuries and not tired? Martinelli plays every game. Odegaard plays every game. When you are in the mix, there's no such thing as tired. There's no such thing as injured, mate. Unless your leg is falling off. We are in 3 competitions. No, 2 now. Actually, we won 1. We've got 2 competitions we can realistically win. We're 1 game away from a final, and we're like 4 games away from another final, right? Or however many games in the Europa League. We can still realistically win them. I don't want to hear about players being tired. I don't want to hear about players this, that, and the other. Because the way I see it, if that's your mentality now when you're competing for the lesser trophies, then I can't trust when it comes to challenging for the league, going up against Man City. When it comes to going in the Champions League, again coming up against City, Liverpool, Real Madrid, Bayern Munich, I don't trust you.
Forget it.
I don't trust you because you're telling me that you're tired and you can't compete when you're competing for 4th and you're competing for Mickey Mouse trophies. So why am I going to trust you when it comes to playing in high-level, high-stake football matches, which are going to be, and I don't want to hear this, we're playing midweek weekends, because guess what? When you go deep in tournaments and you're playing Champions League and competing for the league, you will be playing every 3 days, midweek, weekends, and every game will be a must-win game, high stakes. And what you're demonstrating to me, this group of players, is that you have not got the cojones, mate, at the moment. Yeah. So what that means is the manager's got a choice. These players can't be trusted. United fans, we should not be settling for competing for Europa League and top 4, right? So
that's stuff for me to worry about.
The only way that's going to change is by getting the right players with the right mentality who are going to come in, like the Casemiros and the Martinez players, who want to win. They want to win the big pots, mate, not the tin pots. And if you can't hack it, and we've seen it, these players have been to Europa League finals and bottled it. Yeah, Cup semi-finals and bottled it. So they only got over the line because of what? Newcastle were the better team, and our big name player Casemiro stepped up in the final and won us that game. Right, that was the difference.
Absolutely.
So we need more Casemiros. That's what I'm saying. And if we don't get that in the summer, we don't sign at least 3 or 4 players of that ilk to go into the first 11, not squad players, first 11. Forget it. We're not competing for the league. We're not competing for Champions League. Forget it.
Mundo, forget about that. 3, 4 players. I need the subs to be gone. I need all of them to go. I don't know what he's talking about. Our club is giving Luke Shaw a 4-year contract. Are you taking the biscuit? I've seen this movie before. I've been here, bought the ticket. I've even got the t-shirt and the fucking popcorn.
Don't get me started on Luke Shaw. Luke Shaw should not be starting for Manchester. You know what? Luke Shaw is one of those players I'm talking about. His time is done at Man United. I'm sorry. I'm not falling for this trick because the same thing's happening over and over with this guy. He's played good for 6 months of the season or 5 months, and now he's reverted back to type. It keeps happening that you can't win league titles and challenge with players that only turn up for half a season.
Mundo.
Luke Shaw has done it again.
Mundo, it's not even that though. The only time Luke Shaw ever sort of turns up the gas or anything is when he needs to fight for a new contract to stay long term. That's the only other time.
Yeah.
He's one of those.
In that one season where he was probably arguably our best player alongside David De Gea, in that one season with Ollie, he was fighting for another 3 or 4 year contract. And after that, like you said before, what has he really done ever since? Nothing. No. Apart from he can put a good ball in the box and that's it. Marvellous. It doesn't win you league titles. No, we can't even do that, and that's the problem. He doesn't want to. And that's the thing, though. I think he's scared of going beyond the halfway line because of what happened with the Liverpool game, where he went anywhere near beyond the halfway line, and he had players like Salah and that who were blitzing him for 20, 30 yards before he could even breathe. And when you go beyond that sort of high line of progression, and like you've already said, Mundo, he does need more players in this squad, absolutely. But I think it's a telltale sign when Ten Hag, as soon as he come in, his first assessment was, I need players who are going to be here long term. Aside from it, because his whole policy was, Frankie de Jong would have been a long-term ilk of a midfielder, let's be honest.
Fred.
You bring in players like Martinez, mate, you're thinking long-term. Malacia, long-term. But you had to bring in Casemiro because you had to get somebody. It was better to get somebody than nobody at all when you were getting led down the blind alley. But ultimately, like we've said out there on the field today with Anthony as well, there's another player that he's brought in for the long term. The only players that are technically, in his eyes, his own players, who know his style of play from Ajax all the way leading into Manchester United, are Anthony and Martinez. And I think that showed today why those two players were probably, one of them was the best in the attacking third, and one of them was the best in the defensive third. Midfield, Sabitzer, he's a player that Ten Hag would have said, yeah, absolutely, I'll have him. He's not adapted. He's not acclimatised to the league. You can't just chuck players in at the deep end like that. But I would rather have had a player like Sabitzer than have Fred and McTominay because we've seen that story before. We've seen it literally at Newcastle before where they rip through us. They are failures. And listen, this is the thing that I've always said with our recruitment policy is whenever we buy a player in, they either need to have accomplished something as a player, like you're bringing players like Casemiro, Martinez. They've won things before, or they are one of the best promising young talents in their position. That is the only other time you can revert back to type. At a big club like Man United, you need proven serial winners, not players who are coming here for 4 or 5 years on a jolly up. Fred comes from the Ukrainian league. Like Mudrik's been here about 3-4 months now. I've not even seen him do anything. The Ukrainian league, I don't remember or recall a player that's ever come from that league and burst on the scene in the Premier League. Well, how long?
Fernandinho at Man City.
Yeah, Fernandinho.
Yeah, but these are the things though. That's like 4 or 5 years ago. Like once in a blue moon, you get a pluck of a player out of those sort of leagues. But with Man United, we have gone for serial winners in the recent sort of time, Casemiro's, Ronaldo's, Varane's, these kind of players, and it has brought us minimal success, but those players can only carry you so far. You need more than just, one or two of your own personal assigned players. And this is what I said before, where Ten Hag has had to come in and he's had to change how he thinks and breathes and reads football just to suit these players, because he saw the capitulation that happened last season when another new manager came in and said, no, this is my style of football. And the players didn't want to take to him at all because they couldn't acclimatise to his style of football. But like we said, this season was inevitably minimum get top 4. If you get a trophy, brilliant. But he wanted to acclimatise to this squad and see what can I work with for the long term. And ultimately, when we go into that summer window, I think players like McTominay, Maguire, like when everybody's fully fit, these players don't get anywhere near the starting 11. And I think that speaks volumes as to, I think we know who's going out the door and who's staying. Put it that way. Because ultimately, you can't go to Newcastle and get pinged about and you probably should have lost 5 or 6-0. It shouldn't happen.
Yeah.
You need players who have got mentality instilled in them, who they don't have to be from Britain and be, as you would say, Brexit FC or anything like that. You just need players who have proven track records of performing at the highest level, consistency. And Man United don't have that in terms of the quality of players, because when you take the squad that we had from the start of the season and was on that amazing run, we hardly got any injuries or anything, till now, that squad is very thin in terms of the quality drop-off. And ultimately, you've got on the bench, Man United's bench today had 2 goalkeepers on it. 2 goalkeepers. And that tells you about either the lack of depth or the quality of depth that Ten Hag doesn't trust in this squad, because he's got nothing else to use. You can't use players like Sancho and that, who's, according to forms, had some sort of mental issues or family issues away from the football field. You can't rely on players like that to come on and perform at the highest level. Garnacho's already been cropped injured. But ultimately, we go over the performance. It doesn't paint a good picture for any of these players at all. Because ever since that Liverpool game, Delo and Shaw, especially in terms of the fullback areas, have had PTSD from going far too forward. Because they know that a 3 against 2, whoever you play against in the Premier League, whether it's Varane or Martinez together as a partnership, against any front three in the Premier League, they will rip them apart. Because they don't have the levels there to go for it week in, week out. And that's the proven point.
Boys, let's move this discussion forward a bit. I feel like we're just going around in circles, mentioning the obvious stuff. Look, it seems that the panel...
Let me just get this super chat. You're going to have the mic. Luke Shaw getting a new contract tells me Glazer might say 100%, bro. I agree. ISS, you're not on our level. We are where we wish you would be, 12 points above you, top of the league. Now you guys are bragging over the Mickey Mouse Trophy. Now, I wasn't. I think you've come to the wrong channel, but we appreciate the super chat, though, bro. Because I think you've come to the wrong channel, bro. We're not bragging about the Mickey Mouse trophies. I've never bragged about a Mickey Mouse trophy. There are 2 guys here, Bumbaye and Mundo, and they've known me since I was 10 years old. They both can tell you I do not go out and celebrate a Mickey Mouse trophy, a Europa League, a League Cup. Never in my life. But go ahead,
He's
Bumbaye.
talking, he's talking to me. I do celebrate the League Cup and the Europa League. Any trophy I celebrate. However, I feel that this discussion always seems to end with McTominay, Fred, and it seems that the panel is shifting. No, hang on, bro. Let's move this discussion forward a little bit and make some inroads. It seems like we're just scratching the surface, really, and it's the same thing all the time. The one thing that I'm looking at here, if we want to get a different take, is okay. It seems like it's the players. It's the players that are the problem, and we need new players. So far, when this season started, a trophy was, that would be nice for the sake of the players, get that camaraderie together. We won something together. It's important. Top 4 would be good. It was a tall order at the start of the season. But the key component to Erik ten Hag me being a faithful of Erik ten Hag was, I want to see good football. I want to see a system in place where when players are missing, it's not affected majorly. Not like it is now. We seem to be heavily reliant on one dude. Casemiro's missing. It seems everything's falling apart. That tells me, please, somebody, you know, come in, tell me if you disagree. The whole idea is to gain some closure. That seems to me that we haven't implemented the system, that the style of play has been fluctuating often. Now, I don't think he's a philosopher type of manager. I think he does adapt to the way that the opponent is playing. I think he has principles of play, but the way he approaches games will differ. Where does he come into this? Is it part of his remit as a manager to make this team a team that has a strong mentality, to change that lack of belief of this team or whatever they've been, the victims of in previous regimes, to bring them and say, hey, look, this is a new dawn. We don't lose games. This is what we need. Because I look at Antonio Conte. I think Antonio Conte is a top manager, personally. But he went off on one. I understand what he's saying. But Antonio, it's your job. You're getting paid one of the best wages in the world, and you've been brought in as an elite manager to also affect the mentality of these players. He's got a decent squad.
No,
do you know what I'm saying?
No. Eric Dyer, Ben Davies, are those decent squad players? No.
No, but if you look at the team that he's got: Bentancur, Kulusevski, Højbjerg, Lucas, Richarlison, Kane, Son.
No, Kane. Yeah. Son is having a terrible year, but he's a good player. Yeah. I
think the only player that I see is playing there, Steve-O, is Kane. Nobody's improving. Now, when Eric came in, all of us were having a different conversation at a period of the season, saying, you know what, he's improving players. Look at Luke Shaw go, man. Look at Varane. This is the Varane we thought we'd signed. Look at Fred. Do you know what I'm saying? Look at Rashford. But all of a sudden now, everything's dying a death. Why? Where does he come into this? What segment of the responsibility lies with Erik ten Hag? Has anybody got any closure on that?
Yeah, I think it's sports trauma,
or is it just it's not his fault? He needs new players.
No. Today was his fault. I'm sorry, Bombay. Today was his fault. I'll answer the question. We'll go to Steve.
Bro. Not only today, just in general. Like we're looking
at Liverpool, it was his fault.
What's his fault? That's what I'm asking. What's his fault? What's his responsibility as a manager?
Listen, it was his fault because he doesn't change it, because he thinks he can get these players to play. But like I always say, to play the modern way, you have to play with a lot of aggression. Newcastle showed that, and a lot of intensity, and a lot of like.
Okay. Listen, please let me just.
Eric ten Hag has got it into his head. I can't be too harsh on the players because they played more games than anybody else.
Right. Okay. Now we're making inroads.
Let me finish. Because you have to choose as a manager. You have to choose. He's new to the league. He's never managed in a league like this. Never. Ralph Rangnick tells you can be in the German league and play against the bottom anybody teams for your top team. You play bottom half of the table, easy 3 points. Come to the Premier League. Like I said, what I said before, Erik ten Hag needs to understand who he's managing and how every team, because they know the world's eyes are going to be on this club, that any team that plays us, any players that play against us, they're all going to play for new contract, for a transfer away from the club, wherever they are, and they're going to play their best. That's what Fergie drilled.
Observation.
Player. So
observation now.
Needs to learn quickly.
Fine. I agree with you. Observation. Just to push back on what you're saying. 1 second. If the three things that you mentioned, Nuruddin, which is desire, work rate, and knowing who you play for, I've sat on this channel with others on this panel and discussed Wout Weghorst application being phenomenal, being brilliant. No. Okay, he doesn't have the quality. But today, was it the quality only, or is it the team went out? From what Luke Shaw said, there was no. Bro, let me just tell you this, please. There was no desire. They wanted it more, and these things. Isn't that the manager's job? If you don't have the quality, fine. But if you're not giving the work rate, the application, isn't that the manager?
The manager's
That's
been
the
here
question.
for 8 months. The manager's been here for 8 months. He doesn't know majority of these players like we know them. He doesn't. That's why I'm saying he needs to understand where to manage. But I don't want to keep Steve here because he's not said that, not that many. Steve, come on in.
Okay.
How does this? Because I don't want to make it all over when we've got a guest. Newcastle, are you in top gear now? Top gear now for to finish. What would it mean to Newcastle to finish in the Champions League this season?
Oh, it would be tremendous. It would be absolutely tremendous. And then I think you can say whatever you'd like about this. This is just me. If we get Champions League, the world's our oyster in terms of transfers. It really is, because we have the financial muscle, and then we have the Champions League. You know, honestly, with the way the season's going and what we were last year, and that's the other thing I want to talk about. I want to compare our mentality of our players, considering we were in a relegation battle last year, to your guys and your mentality and where you're at, because something just don't make sense. Something just don't make sense. How can Fabian Schär, how can Longstaff, Willock, Callum Wilson, Miguel Almiron, although he didn't play today, how could these guys show stronger mentality through adversity, which the first half was adversity, because we fucked up? We should have probably had 2 or 3 goals. How the fuck does Eddie Howe get a tune out of those guys who are battling relegation? And Ten
Be
Hag
interested to do
get
a combined
something out of-
11 here.
Whoa, one sec. I'm almost done. How the hell can Ten Hag not get something out of this? And to me, that speaks to something that your club, it reeks of arrogance. It reeks of arrogance. It reeks of arrogance and social media and this. It's sports trauma. It's sports trauma with some of your players pre-Ten Hag at this point, I think. Because it must be the allure of playing for Manchester United. I don't know. But how can my players and a manager, Eddie Howe, who's never managed in the Champions League, he's never won an Eredivisie title or, gone to a semifinal of a Champions League, whatever. How can he turn around the mentalities of my Newcastle players who are battling relegation, which we're still using a lot of them? We brought in a guy like Trippier. That helps out. And then we brought in a guy like Dan Burn, local lad. Plays for the badge every fucking time. Every time he does. Not always the best. Again, like we were talking about, the Anthony, he got the better. Guess what? Dan Burn didn't give up. He still galloped.
Listen, Steve, I'll give you a quick answer.
Yeah,
because your club does not have the history and weight. And too many of our players, they think they've made it when they get to Manchester United. When it's just an opportunity.
That makes sense.
Right? But the shirt that weighs heavy. There's responsibility. Yeah. When you put that shirt on, it weighs heavy. I want to go quickly to Jarvis.
Yeah.
Let me just
I'm just a comment for Steve's comment about Eddie Howe.
He's a brilliant manager. The video. I said it. There's videos of me on YouTube saying that he should be Man United manager, and everybody was laughing at me. Guess who's laughing now? You absolute.
I'm laughing.
Sure. Eddie Howe is a great manager, but have you seen the video when Dan Burn scored his only goal for the season in the locker room?
Yeah.
All of the team, like 25 people and all the other around, were like celebrating like mad. It's like almost crazy. You get the goosebumps like watching it, because he's building team spirit. He knows how to build team spirit. The guys are like locked in. They work for each other. There's no superstars in Newcastle. They're only regular people working for each other for the next win, for the next duel, for the next ball, for the next everything. That's Newcastle.
Jarvis, too many of our players, their social media goes boof.
Maguire was talking about it, that he looks at it too much. What a fucking idiot.
Listen, they go through it. Like I said, I've said it many times.
Yeah.
Manchester United used to be an opportunity to showcase, to get better. Now, when they come to Man United, they put their feet up, they made it. Mundo, I'll go to you. Let me just get a super chat. HK Music says, these players did the same thing to Ollie, came in. These players are not good enough. They're bottlers. Stop blaming Ten Hag. Nah, it's not about blame. I have to blame Ten Hag. I'm sorry. We come here, we give Ten Hag a 7 or an 8 or a 9. When he gets it wrong, we've got to call it out. I'm sorry. To me, I'm fair. That's how I am in my life. I'm fair. What I see is what I see.
Yeah.
Our away record against the top 9 teams in the league is 29 goals we've conceded. It's abysmal. Some of it is tactical. Some of it is to the players, but it's tactical. Go ahead, Mundo, and then we'll go back to Jarvis.
Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, today his tactics were horrendous. They were. There's no defending him today. But just going back to the point that Bomaye was saying, there's only so much a manager can get out of a squad. And I think that our manager has eked out every bit he can get out of this current crop of players. That's my honest. I don't think he can get any more out of this crop of players.
It's like
That's
an orange. When you squeeze it,
Yeah.
squeeze,
Much,
there's
the
nothing
fact
much.
that he's got them top 4, the fact that he's won a trophy, the fact that we're in 2 trophies is him getting out absolute maximum out of this team. And a good example is Pep Guardiola, currently the greatest manager in the world, and will go down as one of the greatest ever managers. And when he went to Man City, in his first season, I think they finished 4th.
By goal difference to United.
By goal difference above Manchester United, we finished 5th, right? And he went out and replaced he bought 250 million pound fullback. He replaced the whole back foot, spent like 250 million pounds in the summer. Now, if it was simply down to the manager changing players' mentalities, so on and so forth, then Pep wouldn't have felt the need to go out and replace all of those players. And he's slowly but surely every season gotten rid of the old players and brought in players that fit his mentality and the profile.
Mundo, let me stop you there 1 second. Mundo, go on. I want Bombay to do a little bit of research. I want you to go and check out how many players Klopp has signed since he's been at Liverpool in 8 years, and how many players in the time that he's been there has Pep Guardiola signed.
Yeah, and that's what's going to move on to Jurgen Klopp and say Jurgen Klopp, in Jurgen Klopp's first season, Liverpool were like Man United are now, up and down, conceding a lot of goals, scoring a lot of goals, playing good impact, so on and so forth. Because regardless of how good the manager is, a manager's only as good as the tools that are available to him, right? You can't turn water to wine. And unfortunately, there's too many dead players in our squad. That's just the reality. And there's certain players who are good players, but they've reached their ceiling. They're not going to take us to that next level. So what's critical now, which is why I'm not judging Ten Hag too harshly, because yes, maybe he has been a bit naive, thinking that he can trust these players and play the way he wants to play, because he's seen it in parts that when he's asked them to do it, they've been able to do it. But the problem is they're not able to do it consistently, and their mentality is so fragile that as soon as they get the first bit of adversity, they revert to type, right? Which is what we're seeing now in their away performances, right? So that is on the manager. And in fairness to him, we've not seen Ten Hag ball fully yet as Man United fans. We've seen glimpses of it, and he has adapted to deal with the squad, right? That shows that as a manager, he is able to adapt, which is always a good thing. So I think for me, it's too early to judge Ten Hag fully. I think, as I keep repeating myself saying, once he's got 7 or 8 of his players in that starting 11, and we're starting to see his style of football, and I do believe he has a philosophy, right? But he can't implement it with this squad. Once we see that, that's when I will judge him. But that is all dependent, and I don't want to trigger you, structure, but that is dependent on the owners of the club, what happens in the summer, if he gets proper investment, if he gets the players that he wants, because I'm telling you, there's too many bottle jobs. And the thing is, if it's 1 season, 2 seasons, we're talking about players who are they're now senior pros. They've been at Manchester United for 8 years. 8 years. And it might be nothing to do with their ability. This is down to mentality. It's like anything. If you've been in the same job for 7 or 8 years, you're not going to perform at the same level you performed in years 1 and 2 and 3, right? Because you've been there for 8 years.
Even
So-
Fergie had to mix things. Sorry, I was just gonna say, even Fergie, after all the time he spent, he had to mix things up, right?
Yeah,
He had to mix things up after all these years.
He built 4 different teams.
Yeah. He had to mix
And
things up.
let's be
Guys
honest.
in and out, management. Yeah. Sorry, go on.
outside of gigs and Scholes, how many players did Ferguson keep at Man United for that many years? Maybe Rooney, right?
Gary
It's a
Neville.
few. Gary Neville, yeah.
Andy Cole
yeah.
was only a few years. Van Nistelrooy, Beckham was
A
only
lot
a
of
few
the
years.
players that we formed attachments to, he got rid of. Dwight York only had 2 seasons at Man United, really. Andy Cole wasn't really. How long was Andy Cole there for? About 6 years.
Dwight
maybe?
York, a few
Yeah.
years.
So 8 years in footballing terms is a hell of a long time, right? And we've got players like Rashford, Martial, Luke Shaw. They've been there for 8 years. So if the decision in the summer was, let's sell Shaw, let's sell Martial, let's even sell Rashford, to be honest with you, I wouldn't be that disappointed about that. As long as we got adequate replacements. We brought in players who were hungry, had ability, were the right profile for the manager, what the manager wants. I think what's happened over the years is because we've had nothing to cling on to, because we've been so crap, we haven't had a team to talk, as such, to talk about. So we've latched onto individual players. Yeah.
A team worthy of Man United, bro, because you guys are like some teams pretend that they're the Billy Big Bollocks, but you guys are.
Yeah, but we've latched onto players. So whether it have been Pogba or Rashford or whoever, it's become Player FC. So
Social media don't know.
Someone like Rashford, you're going to get half the fan base kicking off. No, but he scored 30 goals, so on and so forth. But nonetheless, I'm looking at players who can take us to that next level. That's what I'm looking at. I'm looking at players that are consistent. I'm looking at, and again, making comparisons to rivals, which hurts me deep. But I'm looking at teams like Liverpool, and when you've got the level of consistency that they got out of their front three, not just one season, which is what we got out of Greenwood, Rashford, and Martial, but season after season, game after game, they delivered in the big moments and won big trophies for Liverpool and put them in the mix.
There you go, Mundo.
And the question we've got to ask ourselves is,
we don't have those players, Mundo. We don't have those players.
Will Marcus Rashford, I'm not saying it, I'm just picking names out the hat. Will Marcus Rashford, Anthony Martial, Luke Shaw, Diego Dalot, Scott McTominay, Jadon Sancho, and these types of players, do you, as Man United fans, honestly believe that they are going to get us in the mix competing for the 2 biggest trophies consistently every season? If the answer is no, then if we have the opportunity to get rid, we get rid and get in those players that can.
Let me just bring in
Jarvis. 10 years, and I've had enough.
Just bring in Jarvis.
I want to be competing now. I'm sorry. I'm not no allegiances or loyalty to any player.
To anybody. Fact.
Except the badge, except the club.
Yeah.
That's the only thing you're loyal to.
Whatever it takes to get us back to the top, that's what it takes. And if it means getting rid of fan favourites, getting rid of... There's only, for me, at the moment, currently, 2 out of push 3 players that are indispensable at the moment. Casemiro,
Varane,
Martinez, and Varane. That's it. Everybody else, it's if we get a decent offer for them,
open season.
Jarvis, what do you think of that, Jarvis? Quickly.
Yeah. Well, Mundo was touching on Boumailla's thoughts. He was talking about what have changed since the beginning of the season with Ten Hag. So I'm just gonna give a quick answer on that. So Boumaier, you're still here?
Yeah, I'm here, man. I can't wait.
Yeah. The thing is, the players and Ten Hag has done wonders. We saw it in the beginning of the season. Oh, not the first 2, 3, 4 games, but after that, and now I think Ten Hag tactics are being found out by the other managers, to be honest, and Ten Hag can't take this team so much further. He's been trying now in the last couple of games he's been tinkering a lot with players. He's been putting McTominay in the 10. He's been putting Weghorst in the 10. He's trying out new things. He's trying to figure out what is going to work. So I suspect that the other managers are starting to figure out Ten Hag's tactics because of the players. He can't implement the tactics he used in Ajax. He has to he has to level it down and try to play easier football, like on the counter with Rashford and stuff like that. So that's one of the reasons why we're struggling. What do you think about that, Bombaya? Do you think that's a plausible reason?
Yes, yeah, I do. I mean, that's what I'm trying to cover all bases, Jarvis. Other than the obvious stuff, which is, every week you hear it, we're calling out the same things. But in my mind, I'm asking myself, okay, it seems like we are conclusive. The reason for the downturn is that his tactics have been found out. He's having to tweak what he really wants to do, and that is because he doesn't have the players to do what he wants to do.
Mm-hmm.
That is plausible because we just went through a whole host of players that, well, there might be a disagreement here and there, but you wouldn't say, please don't sell him. He's amazing. We need him. So it seems like it's the player. So what you're saying, yeah, I buy it.
Yeah, but you can clearly see it today with Newcastle, like attacking, standing high up with the press and stopping us playing out from the back. It's clearly a tactic from Eddie Howe to play on our weaknesses or Ten Hag's basic tactics.
And
So
the
we
worst
can't use them.
And the worst thing about that as well, Jarvis, because we haven't got the quality to play through midfield. Martinez is our playmaker from deep. He's the tempo guy. He's the one that gets it back, plays it through the lines quickly. And when you cut that part out to today's passing, he was horrendous on the ball. Defensively, he was good, but on the ball, he was horrendous.
Because he was rushed.
Of course he was, and the angles were all closed down. So when any team press us, even on the Ollie, even of the Ralph, all you have to do on Man United is press us high, and we absolutely fall out. We haven't got a keeper who's got the technical ability to dink it into midfield to somebody's feet. And we don't have the midfielder or the number 10 that can collect that ball. So
ball-carrying midfielder.
Of course he's trying. Of course he has to tinker because to too many of these games. But for me, it was the first time he played Sabitzer and McTominay. But soon as McTominay goes back into defensive mode, we concede. And let me take you back to the goal, people, because it ain't about picking on McTominay. This is about him and Sancho messing about in the edge of our area on a 50-50 second and third balls. And they lose it. The ball goes out wide, gets recycled by Newcastle. They overload on that right-hand side. Lose shot position. Then Maximus heads it back for the easy header. That is what it is. It's about those little details. On that edge of that area, you secure the ball. You buy a free kick. You don't lose the ball twice in the same space. You don't, because you're under the cosh, because you're not set yet. I'd rather, if you then can't play, kick it out for a throw-in, because then everybody can get back in shape. But we don't have that. We don't have that.
Jarvis, can I just ask, bro? I take on board what you're saying. Then I go back to my original thing. Is he persisting with that principle of play, the playing out?
Yes.
When he knows, or should he know that we have a problem, but yet he continues to do it, or am I seeing something different?
No,
what do you think?
You're 100% right, because I saw it. You know what? He does it in-game. So don't say we don't do it here. We talk about the same thing. I'm calling Erik ten Hag out because you know what? I don't know him. I don't know him. I saw it against City. We were 4-0 down in 44 minutes. Never in the history of Man United Football Club in a derby. We were 4-4.
What can you do? All right, look,
and I'm telling you, let me finish. I'm telling you, I'm answering your question. He keeps doing and persisting with the same. He tells every press conference our principles and our process, our principle and process of play. He talks about it constantly. But you know what? Your principles, processes do not work in the Premier League, mate. You know who the fuck you're managing.
No,
I think also,
disagree with that. I've got to disagree with
It's
that.
no shame. Let me finish. It's no shame to me. Man United sit back today. Sit back. We hear them on a counter. We couldn't even fucking do that against Newcastle. So
His principles don't work because of the players.
no, but he persists with them, Mundo. He's persistent with
Mundo, that's the thing we're saying, bro. If you've got, I don't know, I'm just trying to learn something. I'm not an expert, but I'm thinking, listening to what you guys are saying, and I'm playing out scenarios in my mind. Now,
let me ask you the question. Question. Against Man City, you're watching, you've seen it. Akanji and the other guy from Dortmund bringing the ball out. Nobody running with anybody. They were like, listen, coming and bringing the ball to the edge of our area. This is the 6-3, right? You remember it. We're screaming like, you got to change it. You've got to change it. Liverpool, we concede 4, and the dickheads are still trying to play through the lines, go up all the way up the pitch, and still try to play. Who the fuck is it? Whose is it? Whose is it? You're the fucking manager. Say, cut, shot. Let's cut the game. Get the fuck out of here.
Eddie Howe made a few adjustments from the Carabao Cup final to this game today, because while we were heavy on the press, because that is one of our, like you said, nerd, and the principles, whatever. We were selective because we wanted to conserve some energy, because in that Carabao Cup final, the energy was used a bit too much. It was off. We selected moments when to put the pressure on, particularly when McTominay or De Gea was on the ball. There were a few times De Gea pings it out to Dalot or wherever, and it was just we would pick to swarm like a pack of wolves, and that's the thing. Like there was things that Eddie Howe did in that game that Ten Hag did not respond with, and then he responded with by subbing off the 2 best players, your 2 center backs. And then he didn't make a halftime. You know what? Real quick.
1 second.
Yeah, sorry.
I keep saying it, and I don't know, maybe you're not hearing me, maybe cutting out. I kept saying to you,
I'm definitely hearing you.
Way of play. I saw it with Ajax in the Champions League, and I'll keep telling you again and again, and everybody watching. They played with aggression, they played with intensity, and when they didn't, they got fucking found out. The Premier League, what you have to add is the third thing. Second balls, third balls, you got to fight for it.
You also need focus.
Man United, when we don't do that, we look like fucking League One.
Nuruddin, just relax, man.
No, I don't think this is a relaxed thing.
What Jarvis? So far, so good. Continue. Yeah,
I just want to say something to like clarify what you're thinking. To understand Ten Hag, he's persistent. He wants to play a certain way. Why? Okay, let's think why. I don't know, but let's think. He wants to figure out if the players can play the way he wants them to play. And you can't just see that in one game. You have to see it in 2, 3, 4, 5, maybe 10 games, 15 games to understand. Can they do it? Can they develop? Can they learn? So he has to be persistent to play his way. That's my thought about it. So what do you think, Boumbaye?
Well, I think 8 months, man, on a lot of games, 46 games is a lot of games, Jarvis, to see if, I think it's enough games to see what somebody can play and what they can't play, to be honest with you. I mean, if you disagree, you may know different than me. I'm not a manager, I'm not an expert, but I think 8 months usually is enough time to get an idea about a manager. The players that we've got, you're going to have to use the players like the ones that, we don't rate, or the ones we have problems with, because unfortunately, there's injuries and other factors at this point in the season. But if he, after 8 months, has not identified the deficiencies of certain players, not only in games, but we're training, 3-4 times a week.
Preseason.
There's a lot of football he's been able to see. I think you should be able to see by now if a player.
You don't just want to see the high levels. You want to see the bottom levels of players too, to see how they perform over time in certain games. So to see if you can trust them or not. And I think Ten Hag plans this ahead. He thinks like short term and long term. And all managers do that, but that's my thoughts.
In the short term, right? Have you go on, Steve?
Let me give you an analogy, right?
Go on.
There's a 6-foot wall, and you want to get over it, right? And someone puts a ladder against that wall, and you choose to sit on the floor. Whose fault is that? Is that the person who left the ladder there, or is it that your fault for not trying to climb over the wall? Because for me, the manager has given them. We've seen it, right? I don't think Ten Hag, right? And the thing that the three things that Nuruddin was talking about, that is not the manager, in my view. That is down to application, because the passion, the intensity, right?
Nah, bro.
That
second balls.
Mundo, can I just correct
the players?
Listen, I never used the word passion.
All right, intensity.
Aggression
and intensity comes from the players. Because what the manager does is the manager sets up a system. The manager gives them the ladder, right? And the manager says, "This is the system I want you to play," right? Actually, his system is, in fact, very aggressive, because if you understand the way that we defend is very, very high risk, because we go man to man, right? That is so high risk, but it's high risk, high reward. So if those 11 players are on it and they win their individual duels, Man United play well, right? But what we've been seeing recently is individual players not doing their jobs, right? And that is having an impact on the team. So when I see Luke Shaw not getting out to the fullback or the winger, whoever's on the wing, and allowing him to keep crossing the ball in time and time again, like Trippier today, how many attempted blocks, not even blocks, how many times did Luke Shaw attempt to stop that ball from coming in? Not once.
It'll be interesting to see if these players then, on the basis of
that is Luke Shaw is number one weaknesses.
Yeah,
yes. So that is what I'm saying. What I'm saying is the manager has set up a system that if the players do not adhere to his specific instructions, right, and do not win their individual duels, we get busted, right? Because it's high risk, high reward. Now he could choose. This is what I'm saying. Even if that manager, we saw it with Conte at Tottenham. This is why I don't necessarily blame Conte. The manager could adapt his system to play low block, but whether you play low block, mid block, high press, mid press, it doesn't matter, because if the players are not running, and this is what I'm seeing, right? If the players are not even running, then it doesn't matter what system you play. It's irrelevant, because if the players are not putting a shift in, name one player that left that pitch today who was breathing heavily or even had a bead of sweat on their forehead. Not a single player. It doesn't matter what system you set up today. If the players are not applying themselves, it doesn't matter. And that's what we're seeing at the moment. That's why I'm critical of the players over the manager. But
Mundo,
yeah,
Habibi, bro, do you know when Jarvis is saying that Ten Hag doesn't have the tools, which means we have a lack of ability, natural ability and quality to execute in practice what his vision is. That's what you're saying, isn't it, Jarvis?
Yeah.
Okay. Let's concede that. That there, fine. We can absolve the manager and we'll go with we need new players. No worries. If you're looking at Conte, bro, and if you're looking at Ten Hag, let's say in this instance, that the application is not there, the desire and the aggression is not there. application, desire, aggression is not natural ability. I can't make Harry Maguire technical. I can't make Fred into Pirlo. I can't make McTominay into Casemiro. I get that.
Yeah, that's right.
But I think that the manager has to be responsible for them putting a shift in and all that stuff associated with a shift. That I do believe. And if they're down in tools, yeah, there you go. So like Steve was saying, relegation level players in Newcastle are fighting like the Blaze. They're not great players. Like you said, Willock, it's much of a muchness. Dan Burn, Shah, a lot of the players there, they're all right players, not world-class players.
No,
not
there's
too
one
much
distinction to be drawn between those two clubs, right? Which is a very important distinction.
No,
These Newcastle players are number one. These players are not the same profile as Manchester United players, right? They're joining Newcastle, which is a new project, right?
Okay.
And Newcastle are now all of a sudden flush with money, big project, potentially going into the Champions League, and potentially in the future going to win trophies. And half of the players that are at Newcastle would never have dreamt of being in that situation.
Yeah.
So,
Chris,
they're going to apply themselves more than players at Manchester United.
I understand that. I understand that.
Just one more point in this, and I mentioned this before. These are we're talking about a nucleus of players that have been at the club for 8 years. 8 years. So they're comfortable, right? And they've been rewarded for failure time and time again by getting new contracts, by getting starting 11, right, when they should have been turfed. Right, whereas Newcastle players, they've got the spectre of, if I don't perform, then Newcastle have got money. They can go out and replace me, and I'm never going to get this opportunity to challenge for play Champions League football, because Dan Burn, with all due respect, if he doesn't play for Newcastle, he's playing for Brighton. He's not playing for Brighton. He's going to Southampton. He's going to a lower club, isn't he?
We're fucked. Do you know why, boys? From this discussion now, we're just back where we were with Ole and Mourinho and Van Gaal again now. Because now what you're saying to me is, you know what? I don't know what to say or what to do or what to think, because you've sent me back to the Glazers now and the running of the club. So now that we're at the Glazers and the running of the club, how do I judge my manager now? How do I judge my players now? That's the problem with Man United. That's the exact issue with Man United. I'm trying to talk objectively, but now we've gone away from what we've been talking about. You've took me to the Glazers, so now we're stabbing in the dark again. That's the problem with Man United.
I always say.
But that's no good though. Exactly, because how do you assess the situation?
So listen to
you
me.
Can't actually analyze anything, because it's not the manager's fault. The players are used to a culture, but I'm expecting the manager to change that culture, to make them believe, to get a tune out of them. But he's not supposed to do that, because he's undermined because of the way the club. Where'd you go with that? Do you know what I mean?
For example,
it's just lost again. It's just lost again.
Let me come in, Mumbai. January was the biggest test case. January, Manchester United. Felix wants to come to Manchester United. Man United could not even have the loan money to get him. Instead, we get a championship player on loan in a Turkish league. And then the only reason why we got Sabitzer is because Ericsson got injured. And luckily, that was just before the window closed. And that Ten Hag, because most people forget, Ten Hag at one of these clubs in Holland was a director of football. He's got contacts. He luckily got on the phone and got Sabitzer over the line.
And he was number 2 at Bayern for a while, wasn't he? He was number 2 at Bayern, so he knows the people at Bayern as well.
But before that, he was a director of football as well, Mundo, for a season and a half.
FC Twente, I think.
Yeah, so this is where it comes down to. I'm not used to it today, because that's a disgraceful performance from Manchester United. But the point is, listen, fish always rots from the head. Fish always rots from the head. Let me just get this. Big up HKM Music. He says, I disagree, Nuragin. Ten Hag should not change. He's showing these players are not good enough. He's giving a lot of these players enough rope to hang themselves. Yeah, maybe somebody like you, But I'm sick of it. As a United fan, I'm not here for that experiment. I'm not here for that fucking experiment because I don't want to see my team getting slaughtered and getting absolutely bopped off the park every week away games. I'm sick of it. And I don't want my football team thinking in 2 Mickey Mouse fucking trophies, beating Barcelona and beating Newcastle in the Carabao Cup as the greatest achievement. That's where everybody, and a lot of you in the fan base as well, it's our fault as well. It's our fault. I'm always on giddy watch because I realize that, like Mundo said before, because we haven't got a great team, I get giddy about these individual players. I get giddy about these. And then I always think, it's the way we run. If the fish is rotting from the head and the rest of the fish, what's going to happen to the rest of the fish? You're going to rot as well. As we speak tonight, Manchester United are at £1 billion in the fucking red.
And literally,
we got a workhorse where we could have got so many players on loan. We got a guy who's from the Championship on loan to a team in Turkey. Because
and literally,
they don't have any money.
And literally, Nuruddin, Old Trafford is rotting. Quite literally, the head, the fish. Old Trafford is rotting. Listen, the toilets, the leaks, I've heard it all. I've heard people that they go to the away days. It's fucking crap because it rots.
Listen, let me just get the rest of this. Enough rope to hang themselves. Again, this is on the players, not the manager. These are his principle. Players must conform or get out. Well, you know 100%. What? I'm not here to get embarrassed though. And manager has to be clever enough and understand that some of these players are not going to conform to his way. He's got to wait for the transfer window to have a wholesale clear out. He's got to get results for Manchester United and not for his fucking ego because he's at Manchester United. You're not a fucking Ajax. Wake the fuck up. Know where you're at because I'm not here to get embarrassed week in, week out and away games. I'm not here to get embarrassed.
Look, I think it's one thing that is echoing relatively clearly from Jarvis and Mundo is the point that he hasn't had enough time to realize what he actually has. Is this right, boys? And he's going to persist doing what he's been doing until he realizes what he has. Is that what we're saying?
The thing is, Bombay, Ten Hag, he hasn't had the chance to play his style of play, and we know that because I've been looking to several stats, a lot of stats, and one of the stats in the Premier League is successful passes. Okay. Try to guess what's the number one team on that list.
Man City.
Yeah, sure. Man City. United are 8 of successful passes. So he can't play his style. You like playing tiki-taka, Ajax style Dutch football. Yeah. But another point is we're 8 in interceptions. You know what team is on the bottom of that list?
Man City.
Yeah, Man City. Why?
Because they have the ball the most of the time.
They have the ball all the time, and they don't press directly on the man. They hunt in packs and cut away the passing lanes, so they lose the ball. They don't intercept the ball. They press them to lose the ball. Yeah. So
force them into mistakes.
And the thing is, for me, those stats, United are 8 and 8. It shows we neither one or the other thing. We're just something in between. So what's your thought about that, Sets?
Listen, Jarvis, we know we could talk for guys. I just want to thank everybody. I genuinely will be going for an hour and 43 minutes. I just want to thank everybody that's tuned in. Please smash a like on the video. You get raw, real reaction on here. Raw, real reaction.
Even the annoying American.
Listen, the man's got the shades. Steve has got on the disco and he's got the shades and he deserves it because his team balled out, bopped us all over the pitch. At the end of the day, it is what it is. Like I always say, people, it always goes back to who. Nothing ever happens in a vacuum. Everything has got historical context. And like Mundo brilliantly defined it. Players who were here for 8-9 years achieved jack all, one Europa League, 2 League Cups, and an FA Cup. Good night, Vienna. You're not Manchester United. You're not. I don't blame all of the players at once. I blame the culture that gets them these things. But we see it. And like HK and Music, I'm scared. Because if Luke Shaw is being offered 4-year contract, when Luke Shaw, one of the basic tenements of a fullback defending is going out quickly to people crossing the ball. And if he can't even do that after 8 years at Man United, how the F is he getting a 4-year effing contract?
Who's next?
I don't believe it. Luke Shaw.
Contract.
Luke Shaw. And today, we saw it in the first half. Trippier, check my tweets out. That guy, Red Devil. Check my tweets out. I'm screaming on Twitter. I'm literally saying, we got to get closer to Trippier. He's their playmaker. Last night we were on here. We talked about Bruno Guimaraes. We talked about Isaac. We talked about Trippier. We talked all the things we talked about. And who the hell are we? We know our players more than Eric Ten Hag knows our players. Yeah. We know them because we've dealt with them for the past 8 years. Jarvis, he lives in bloody Norway. I live in Hume. You're in Manchester, Bombay. Steve is in the US. Chris is in London. We know. We're not football experts. We don't get paid for this. But we know that a fullback has to close somebody down. When you're a technically gifted footballer like Sancho, you got to put your body in there to buy the free kick. The only way they can get the ball off you is by fouling you. We know that. We know those things. We do.
And just one thing on Shaw, both Ranić and Mourinho have said that Shaw's not good enough for Man United. Both of them have said that.
Yeah. Mundo, everybody, Van Gaal had a problem with him. Van Gaal, every manager had to speak to him. It's in your DNA. You bring it out for 5-6 months. You know what I mean? Like that bird. It's mating season, like a bird in the wild. When it's mating season, you bring out all your feathers. You bring out
a peacock.
You bring it out. But when it's not, when you get that mating, when you get to hit the jackpot, when you get that in the jackpot, you then put the wings, everything in, mate. You put them all in. We already know where Luke Shaw is and who he is. We know that. Like I said it, I've seen this movie before. I've seen it. I bought the T-shirt. I've watched it in real time. I'm obsessive in that way.
Mm-hmm.
But somebody's going to tell me something different. And this is on you. Every fan that gassed these players up because they beat Barcelona in a shitty Mickey Mouse Europa League.
Which they still haven't won the trophy, by the way. That was the game to get to this round of 16.
The way that some of our fans were going on with Barcelona, like this is 2011 Barcelona, laughable. At the end of the day, it's what it is. I can't even do match ratings today because everybody was shit. The coaching staff shit. Players shit. All of it was shit. Give credit to Newcastle. They took it. And I predicted this, and I wish I was wrong. Because I knew the way we were playing, Jarvis knew, Mundo knew, even Bombay deep down in his heart, what we were doing was unsustainable. And something had to give. And it's there. And if anybody thinks, if we had Eriksen and Casemiro today, so the other 8 players are all going to go magic. No, I reject that. Today was about intensity, aggression, fight, and really fighting and thinking, we're third, we're not moving off third. We're not moving off that place. Newcastle, you have to earn it. We didn't even make them earn it. We gave it to them.
Yeah.
There's the right way and the wrong way to lose a football game. And Man United, too many games this season away from home in the league are losing the wrong way because the intensity in the Premier League, Ten Hag needs to get it into his head. He needs to get it into there, right? Understand, everybody knows Man United are in town. Everybody turns up against us. But smash a like on the video. Subscribe to the channel. I'll go around the last word. Go ahead, Jarvis. Last couple of words from you, and then we'll go around.
Well, the only player who performed today was Martial. He offered something different. Except from him, it was bad. last word from me.
Mundo.
Yeah. Mundo.
Last word for me is looking
Words,
forward to the Brentford game. More of the same, boys. Ivan Toney's coming to town. He's gonna have a field day.
I'm scared, boys. I'm scared. I'm not lying to you. I'm scared. They score so many goals. They score more goals than most teams does. They're full of goals. Go ahead,
And they're a
Bombay.
team. And they're a team.
Go ahead, Bombay.
Yeah, man, I've seen some very good things. It's a shame the show is ending. I think there's a lot more to be had. We're just touching on some very interesting discussions from Jarvis, points from Mundo, you pushing back. I think we could have dug a lot deeper into this issue tonight to make some real headway, to take us away from the usual stuff after a bad defeat. So hopefully we can get more of that, because I'd like to, I've got some questions still. It's a bad day at the office, but I think Eric, man, just pick these guys up, remind them where we are up to in the season, and it'd be a shame for it to turn to shit now, because in the main we've done all right.
Okay, Steve-O, go ahead.
All I gotta say is, man, I feel like a kid in the candy shop with Newcastle, man. I feel like a middle-aged man in a strip club with a bunch of wads of money. The world is my
we
oyster.
can't have this guy on every week, man. I can't handle this.
I could take a bunch of Skittles. I could take a bunch of lollipops. I could. You know what? The world's my oyster with Newcastle, man. It's nice. It's really, really nice. We could get Champions League or we could get a Europa League. At the end of the day, I'm happy because we're making progress. Make
Newcastle great again.
Make Newcastle great again. Well said.
There you go. Get that in a t-shirt somewhere near you soon by Steve-O. Big ups to Steve-O. Listen, it is what it is. It is what it is, guys, genuinely. At the end of the day, we take it. But for me, this embarrassing, dreadful away record, the data is in. The stats are in, people. Manchester United players absolutely cat their pants. Nobody wants the ball. Everybody's terrified and scared of the ball. It is what it is, people. Big up to every one of you. Big up to Jarvis. Make sure you follow these guys. Make sure Jarvis is Bowley77. Check him out on Twitter. Steve Malaka. Check him out. Steve Malaka YouTube channel as well. Go and check that out. He watches football. He does streams. He does everything. Watch-alongs. Mighty Mundo, you can check him out on Twitter, even though he never bloody tweets. Bumbaye, you can only get him on this channel. He's exclusive to this channel for the next 100 years, God willing. It is what it is. Big up to every one of you. At the end of the day, we have to cut it because we've gone on for an hour and 52 minutes. And it's supposed to be an hour. But at the end of the day, it is what it is. It's an inquest when Man United lose.
It's a good convo.
Club. And the idea that Luke Shaw is getting a contract from me shows me that this football club's not changed. I'll give him a roll-on-year contract, mate. That's what you're getting. Yeah. You have to earn the next season's contract by the way you finish the season. That's where you get.
And one thing to my Muslim brothers out there: don't watch Man United when you're fasting. It's haram football. It'll break your fast.
Because you might puke.
It is haram football.
Oh, dude.
It is. And some of the people, actually, 2 people said they've switched it off because they wanted to swear.
You'll break your fast.
We're gonna have to make this one up, man. We all broke early today.
So, big up to everybody. Like we said, at the end of the day, everything goes back to the Glazers. If you know, you know, people. If you know, you know. Everything goes back to the Glazers. Everything.
The root cause.
He's expecting 3 signings in January to help him for the work that he did up till January, and we get Workhorst and Sabitzer, who was sat on the bench by Munich. And that's where it is, people. It is what it is. Big up to all of you. Please smash a like on the video. Subscribe to the channel because you get raw, real reaction on here and analysis of this football club. So please become part of Therapy Army. We're 100 short of 7,000. So come on, people. Take care. Love and light. Big up to every one of you. Win, lose, or draw. Glazers out. Bankers out. Good night. Well done, Newcastle.